So, growing up, for those that know me well that might be listening to this, everyone knows that I loved animals. And in fact, my mom was a vet tech for a while. But that's how I knew that I did not want to do anything veterinary or actual doctor because I got to see what happened there. And that was just a no go for me. And so then in high school, I was like really good at chemistry and math. And so one of my professors is like, "Well, have you thought about, being a doctor and all that stuff?" And I said, "Yes, but no." He said, "Why don't you look at pharmacy?" And so then I did some interviews and shadowing, and that's how I kind of landed on pharmacy. And then cardiology came as a side note from family history. Several people in my family have had heart attacks, and like heart health has been a big part. And so kind of married the two together and could not be happier with where I am now. At baseline, being a pharmacist usually requires 6 to 8 years of after high school training. So some programs will let you do 2 years of undergrad and then 4 years of pharmacy school. Other programs want you to have 4 years and have a bachelor's of science degree before coming into pharmacy school, which is another 4 years. And then for my particular position or training, I actually did 2 years of post graduate training. So that means that I did 2 extra years training, similar to what physicians do. And so I had extra time where I was trained under people that were actively practicing pharmacy. I did a first year as a general, kind of getting the lay of the land in a hospital. And the second year, I focused in on cardiology. And then there are other ones that have similar things, and they actually do a third year, or if you choose pharmacy, you can just go into industry, and that has like 1 to 2 years of fellowship. So again, after pharmacy school training as well. So my personal day-to-day duties kind of include a little bit about, I work in a hospital, let's start there. I have pharmacists that work in what we call central pharmacy, and that's more of what people probably think of when they think of a pharmacist. They think of somebody maybe that works out in the community at like a Walgreens or CVS. So in the hospital, we have people that will work in our central pharmacy and process orders and prepare them and send them up to the patients. So they're really vital to actually getting medications to people. But myself, when I work on cardiology floors, and then we have pharmacists that also work on like in the ICU or intensive care units, work with neurology patients, work in general medicine, all these different areas. A lot of us, what we do is we actually look at the patient's chart as well, just like the physicians do or mid-level providers do. We work up the patients, which means we go through, we read everything about them, look at their labs, look at their medications, and then we go and make rounds. So go and see all the different patients on a team with all the providers. And we serve as the medication experts. And so my job is I go and I review every single medication, look at everything else in the patient's chart, and make sure that we're giving them the right medication, medications aren't giving them side effects, recommending to increase, decrease doses, making sure they're the correct doses for if people's kidneys or livers aren't quite working right. And we really serve as that kind of sounding board of how to get the best medication therapy. And so in my day-to-day, I start there, work patients up, we do rounds, and then I talk more with the team. I'll come back, I'll actually write notes on every single patient that I see and go through and follow up on anything that, maybe before we make a decision from rounds, we go back and I'll follow up on after we get a test and say, okay, this is the result of the test. This is what I think medication-wise we should do. And that kind of looks about how my day gets filled up. Even though I'm a pharmacist, I think I'm a teacher at heart because it runs in the family. So again, those watching that know my family well, everybody in my family is some sort of teacher, if not an actual teacher. And so on rounds, part of it is I get to teach the providers about key medication nuggets that they may not know that they can use in the future, as well as they teach me things about articles that I maybe haven't read yet. And then also in my current position, I get to train students and residents, which are those people that are out of pharmacy school, but doing that extra training. And I get to teach them kind of my ways. And they're always closer to school, so they're also teaching me. So I think there's a great teaching component in my job, both me giving my knowledge and also receiving something every day. His favorite would have to be documentation. And so we have to write notes every single day. And while I know it's good because it shows what we're doing, it can be a bit of a hindrance and a bit of making sure things are worded appropriately and all those things. And again, while it's good, it just can, I feel, sometimes take away from patient care, which is never the purpose. Yes, so I touch a little bit, but we'll go through kind of the more traditional paths. There's several things that a pharmacist can really do. And so one being that traditional kind of community pharmacist that we think of at like Walgreens or Schnucks or CVS. But even they can do more than just dispense medications that we think of. They can counsel you on, the different side effects, talk to you about things that are going on, recommend things that might help certain like headaches and coughs and the best medicines for that. There's the community, or there's the hospital, which I've kind of already covered. And then there's also industry, so those are, I know everybody thinks that big pharma, or a lot of people think that big pharma is evil, but I know several people that work there that have the truest hearts, and pharmacists can play a big role in actually creating the drug trials, just to have like the best outcomes and see if it truly works, as well as education on some of those. And so I have several friends that actually work for small and large pharmaceutical industry companies. Pharmacists can also work in a nuclear pharmacy, so they can prepare the different doses that patients might get when they need a scan that involves some sort of nuclear medicine. I actually have a friend that does that as well. Other things, pharmacists can actually work in doctor's offices, so they can see patients and set up appointments just like you would with maybe a nurse practitioner or a physician, and they can really hone in and help you focus, or help patients focus on medication changes and optimizing things that way. It's more traditionally for diabetes, but that space is kind of growing and just in general practice. They can work in nursing homes, they can work in special psychiatric facilities. Basically anywhere that there's any medication involved, there's probably a pharmacist working behind the scenes to make sure things are accurate and the best for patients. For continuing education, each state is going to have a different request for you to keep up your license. Traditionally, it's so many hours, around 30-ish from the few states that I've been licensed in, is about per year, is about what it averages to. And so a lot of hospitals or places of work will actually help provide you with some. And depending on, again, what state, you have different requirements, from keeping up with law changes to new medications that come out. And they really do, most places, I believe, do a good job in kind of directing you in that and helping set aside time to get that achieved. And so there's so many skills transferable from 4-H that I've learned throughout and been able to use. But I wanted to approach this with kind of the pledge approach. And so thinking in the head, just being a lifelong learner, there's so many new things that I learned in 4-H, whether it was in dog training, as much as I didn't want to admit my mom was right, or learning something new, to being a junior leader and learning new tactics on leadership or engagement, which I still use today when I'm speaking with physicians to try and get a recommendation across, or even teaching students and that type of thing. As far as, for heart, always just kind of bringing it back. I mean, it's kind of easy because I'm a cardiology pharmacist, but just kind of always bringing it back to center and the valuing everybody's, opinion, getting everybody involved and coming from like a place of love and respect for everybody that is around me. And that can be really hard in 4-H. That was a lesson that I learned because I'm so competitive, but, kind of taking a step back that everybody brings something special to offer. Hands, healthcare is all about service. And so we've had an amazing but challenging opportunity this year to like open up and put the patient first. And so always remembering that is something that is key from 4-H days, that even if I'm having, a bad day, it's not about me. It's about my service to people. And so taking it back there, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nerdy. Sometimes I even like recite that line in my head just to bring it back. And then health, I couldn't provide for my patients or be present for my family and friends if I, didn't center that and make it a part of my routine. And so, and 4-H really taught me some different like life skills of how to put that first, or different ways of self-care. It's like not always a bubble bath, but sometimes it is going out and taking your dog on a walk, when you need to. And so I think kind of those things that helped me be a holistic person has helped me in my job moving forward. 5. I'm pretty sure I wanted to be a combination of like the best ballerina and zoologist that there ever was. I don't know how those would come together, but I really wanted to be both of them. So, the advice I'm going to give is probably not just specific to pharmacy, but anything. I would say do some research, not so much that all you're going to do is research, but get a little bit of knowledge so you know what questions to ask. And then find people that are open to be interviewed or have you shadow them, so you can get an experience and get a little taste of what something is like. So that's what I did when I started a little bit about pharmacy. I tried to indulge and get a little bit of information. I didn't even realize when I was somebody first that there was more than just somebody that worked at Walgreens. And so I did that, and I was able to ask, questions when I visited them, talk to different people. And so, and it's okay if what you're interested in at first is not what you end up doing. I'm pretty sure the people that you're talking to will not be offended if that is not your chosen thing, because it's for you, and you want to know what path would be optimal for you. And so I think that would be my bit of advice moving forward. And if you have any pharmacy questions, I would love to talk to you, or any other healthcare, we can get you connected from my end at least.